Good morning. My name's Roger Lewis from RLD Land and Developments, Real Estate and Developments Limited. And this is a broadcast about the excellent book, Generation Rent, which I'm going to read a chapter shortly. It's by Chloe Timperley. It's out on Cambry Press. This is my order. I ordered 2 copies. There's one you see over my shoulder there. This one I'm going to read from, and I also have a Kindle copy, which I also bought on my phone here. So I'm just going to get that up so I got access to the what do you call it, the index. This is all live and unscripted. I know what I want to say, and so I'm just going to go through it now. On the Cambry Press site, if we just open that up here, this window. Internet is so slow at the moment here in Sweden. Here's the Cambry Press site, which I just showed my order of. I got 2 hard copies and 5 digital copies. The digital copies come by a thing called Glass House, and I haven't been able to get the app working. I've made an inquiry because I bought 5 digital copies to send to business partners and bankers that I'm involved in. I'm a property developer. We have a company called Moduloft and also another company called Moduloft Finance, and we are a new player in the affordable housing market for rungs 25 to 35 of the housing ladder, and we are seeking to release a product which is a 5% deposit and 5 times joint income. I've published various research which I'll take you through on mortgage origination, credit creation, and a lot of the things that Chloe actually highlights in this excellent book, which everybody should read. Now, the app with the you can see it's excellently sourced. These are footnotes at the end of each chapter with Chloe's excellent research. In fact, I was just reading a bit of the book, or rereading, where Chloe recounts actually working in mortgage origination herself, in the back office of a mortgage company, talking about interest only buy-to-let mortgages, and the business model for that, which is a very interesting chapter. You really need to get this book and read it yourself, because it's an introduction to all of the key areas. Now, the review which I put on the site of Cambry, this is my review here. Chloe writes in a sharp, concise and accessible way. If you haven't read this, then you should. There'll be a link in the description to this video. You can also on Amazon, this is my Amazon account coming up here. You can look inside. So if we look inside here, look inside. The internet's a bit slow, so it's not going to flash up immediately, but hey, let's go. Right, now there's a chapter, if we look inside, which is, it's just, there we are. Which I'm about to read, which is chapter 18. Chapter 18, there you go, House of Landlords. So, how much of this chapter is actually available on the Amazon preview? The hard copy I ordered from Amazon hasn't come yet, but I have got the digital copy, which I was just showing you on my phone. Right, so that... let's just get back to that index. Will it go back to where I was? Forgive me for faffing about, but this is live 18. Here we are, this chapter here, House of Landlords. So without further ado, I'm going to read chapter 18. So listen up and mark ye well. So, Generation Rent, why you can't buy a home or even rent a good one. Chapter 18, The House of Landlords. In January 2016, a proposed change to the Housing and Planning Act would have made it a legal requirement for all landlords to make their properties fit for human habitation. When the amendment was voted down in Parliament, the media and the public were baffled. Nobody could believe that serving MPs, 309 Conservative, 1 UKIP, 2 from the Ulster Unionist Party, could be so indifferent to the idea of people being protected from inhumane living conditions. It meant that, in some ways, a human tenant was less entitled to a habitable home than their dog. The move was a gift to the left-wing press, since David Cameron went on his PR drive to shake the Conservatives' reputation as the nasty party. Openly disregarding the interests of the poor and vulnerable went against the party line. And yet, here was what looked to be a blithe acceptance that people should be allowed to live in squalid and dangerous living conditions. Beneath a story reporting the defeat in The Independent, one commentator highlighted how bizarre it all looked to an outsider. I mean, no offence or disrespect, but as a foreigner, I wasn't aware that the UK didn't have such a piece of legislation. Housing standards in the UK are by far the lowest I've seen so far anywhere in Western Europe. Overall, privately rented homes in England contain more mould, damp, insulation problems, fire hazards, and generally old and decrepit interiors and facilities than any other type of housing, including social housing. By contrast, socially rented homes, housing association and council housing, are the best maintained of all types of housing stock on average. Some 72 of the MPs who voted down the motion were themselves registered landlords. The law change had been proposed by a Labour MP, Karen Buck, partly because of the high prevalence of poor quality rented accommodation in her North London constituency. The legislation for a tenant's right to a habitable home actually already existed, but as it had not been amended since 1957, it only applied to tenants paying up to £80 a year in London and £52 elsewhere, i.e. no one. Traditionally, the Conservative Party has protected the interests of property owners. Its solution to generation rent was not been to make renting better, but to encourage more renters to buy homes. David Cameron made clear his government's priorities in his speech to his party conference in 2012. Look, it's okay for my generation. Many of us have got on the ladder. But you know, the average age that someone buys their first home today without any help from their parents, 33 years old, we are the party of home ownership. We cannot let this carry on. There are young people who work hard year after year, but are still living at home. They sit in their childhood bedroom, looking out of the window, dreaming of a place of their own. I want us to say to them, you are people, we are on your side. We will help you reach your dreams. There was no mention of the private renting sector. According to Cameron, the most noteworthy consequence of the extraordinary cost of getting on the ladder was that some young people had to live with their parents. And yet, this was at a time when the difficulties of generation rent were already well known. In the 2015 Conservative Party conference, the adult children stuck in the family home narrative was wheeled out once more, and the only mention of private renters was in the concluding remark. Let's turn generation rent into generation buy. This speech was accompanied by the pledge to abolish the planning rules that force developers to build a certain amount of affordable rented housing as part of new developments. Cameron went on to explain, for years, politicians have been talking about building what they call affordable homes, but the phrase was deceptive. It basically meant ones that were only available for rent. What people want are homes they can actually own. Dan Wilson-Craw, head of campaign group Generation Rent, told me that this argument in favour of promoting ownership over renting was circular. If you ask people what they prefer, they always pick home ownership. But the option of a decent rental sector doesn't really exist. If we reformed security of tenure, we could get to a point where renting provides all the security and autonomy of home ownership. It could be a genuine alternative. Instead, David Cameron chose to scupper further provision of new affordable rented homes to make way for his vision of 200,000 starter homes available for purchase at a 20% discount on their market value. In November 2019, the BBC presenter Andrew Neil challenged MP Liz Truss on how many of these starter homes had been built. There haven't been as many starter homes as we would have liked, she began, before saying she couldn't provide him with the exact numbers. The exact number was 0. At no point, it seems, did Cameron seek to find out why private renters weren't piling onto the property ladder, despite layer upon layer of government incentives. See Chapter 9, Official Help to Buy. Nor did he stop to consider why his fanatical mission to cut red tape for property developers, a drive the Architect's Journal called a bonfire of regulations, hadn't dented the size and growth of the privately renting population. In fact, by the mid-2010s, it was becoming painfully clear that everything David Cameron and George Osborne had put in place to keep the home ownership dream alive had either failed to have an effect or made things worse. Evidence was mounting that Help to Buy and cuts to stamp duty had fueled property prices, and the continuation of Right to Buy had sent the housing benefit bill soaring to new heights. Nick Clegg, the erstwhile Deputy Prime Minister, later reported that during the coalition years, either David Cameron or George Osborne, I honestly can't remember whom, told him, "I don't understand why you keep going on about the need for more social housing. It just creates Labour voters." This statement reveals that the Conservatives didn't just want to solve the housing crisis, they wanted to solve it in a way that fitted with their ideology. The solution had to lie somewhere in the free market, or else a solution did not exist. Subheading: Rejoicing at Lost Sheep Who Have Been Found. In 2018, the Homes Fitness for Human Habitation Bill was debated and voted on again as a private member's bill, and the tone of the debate could not have been more different. A Labour MP, Andy Slaughter, even took the opportunity to congratulate the 7 Conservative MPs present at the second reading who had reversed their stance since 2016. "I would hate ever to be churlish in the chamber," he said, rejoicing at lost sheep who have been found. Not one negative voice could be heard throughout the debate, with MPs from all corners of the House expressing their delight at the cross-party support the bill had garnered. What did it take to change the conversation in such a short space of time? The vote to leave European Union on the 23rd of June 2016, which brought both Cameron and Osborne's time in office to an end, may have had an impact. However, the most dramatic shift in political opinion on housing standards came almost a year later, when tragedy struck in a tower block in North Kensington, London. The fire at Grenfell Tower reduced the 24-story building to a blackened shell in a matter of hours. It was the worst fire in London since World War II. It claimed the lives of 72 people and displaced 209 households. It later emerged that the landlord of the building, Kensington and Chelsea Tenant Management Organisation, which was run at arm's length by the local council, had signed off on unsafe refurbishments a year earlier that had effectively turned the building into a giant tinderbox. What's more, residents had been raising concerns over the safety of the tower block for several years, but these had been repeatedly ignored and dismissed. In November 2016, 7 months before the fire broke out, the Grenfell Action Group wrote on its blog that it had come to a terrifying conclusion, that only a catastrophic event will expose the management organisation's ineptitude and incompetence. After Grenfell, the issue of poor housing standards for all tenants was brought starkly under the microscope. As Conservative MP Rebecca Powell put it, While pledging her support for the Fitness for Human Habitation Amendment in January 2018, Pau, a private landlady, had voted against the amendment 2 years earlier. A week after the fire, Sajid Javid, also a private landlord who voted against Karen Buck's original bill and then Secretary of State for Communities and Local Government, told the House of Commons, "It is clear that any changes in the wake of this tragedy should not just be technical or legislative ones. What happened at Grenfell also showed us all that we need a change in attitude." The Homes Fitness for Human Habitation Act 2018 became law on the 20th of March 2019. Tenants who started a new tenancy after this date have the power to sue their landlords if their homes are deemed unfit for human habitation. So long as they can afford the legal costs or qualify for legal aid, existing tenants were covered from March 2020. And yet, despite the political rallying cries of summer 2017, the public inquiry into the Grenfell tragedy is ongoing. The aluminium composite material cladding, which had been attached to the exterior of the building as part of the 10 million refurbishment works that took place in 2015 to 2016, is thought to have been key to the rapid spread of the fire. Since the incident, 435 high-rise buildings in England, both public and private, most residential, have been found to have the same cladding as Grenfell Tower. As of September 2019, the cladding has been removed from 114 buildings. Some 321 buildings are yet to be remediated. It's a great book. It's a really, really good read. It's a proper page turner, and I, as I say, can't recommend it highly enough, either to students of the built environment, surveyors, lawyers, landlords, people that want to make a living, as I do, out of property development. This is essential reading. It does get to the heart of the issues here. Now, just on Grenfell and the cladding side of things, there are a number of pressure groups at the moment because mortgage companies are refusing to allow or sanction mortgages on properties which actually have this dodgy cladding on them, or a certificate saying they don't have the dodgy cladding. It's a massive problem for people that are basically stuck in these places. It has been in the press. There has been some reporting of it. I've seen challenges to Robert Jenrick saying, look, come and meet with the groups. Robert, I say, as a supporter of yours, go and meet these people and, you know, let's walk the walk, not just talk the talk, because your reforms, I think, can do a lot of good. And there are a lot of good ideas in there. It's not just central government, it's the whole machinery surrounding my industry, which has effectively lost its way. Things such as community infrastructure levies, section 106s, all of which are touched upon in this excellent book. And I'm going to send you a copy, Mr. Robert Jenrick MP, because this is a great book and it really needs to be read. I like Chloe's objective reportage. The dialogue is excellent. Chloe's a playwright, and I think that obviously helps. But I mean, this should be on the Richard and Judy book club if it still exists. It should be actually on the syllabus of civics if they still do it in schools, but certainly on economic syllabuses, in geography syllabuses. A great friend of mine is Professor Adam Tickell, who is one of the world's most famous economic geographers. Adam, get your people to read this book. That's Adam Tickell. I think I might actually tack on underneath this video the wonderful song Activism and the Academy, which is about Adam, and it always makes me laugh, and I haven't run him up recently to pull his leg about it. But yes, he's something to do with East Sussex University, and they've got all the problems at the moment, obviously, with lack of Chinese students. Yet another scandal, getting students to pay for their education, short-sightedness, and a plague on all their houses. That chapter is a great chapter, and there are lots of great chapters in this book, so check it out. And beware, my business associates, the links are coming. I will be on the phone to Cambry today to say, where are my links? The Glasshouse app is not working as advertised. It does not say or do what it says on the tin. So that's really that. Just a shout out for my Yumpu magazine channel. If you where are we? Let me just do this. My publications. This is out of Switzerland. It's a very good platform for getting you know, blogs, reviews, actually in a page turning format, which is optimized for these things. So where are we? My collections. I have to date, since I've started playing with this thing, produced 19 publications, and I'm just gonna mention a few of the ones that are publicly available. The first one I published was a bumper sticker for Loft Miles, which is a open source discussion document about sweat equity, discount tokens, mortgage origination, etc. So that is publicly available. This one is publicly available. Sadiq's Pour Doors Bung, a Westbury Printers Friary Park Saucy comparison. Then this is public Isle of Dogs community plan or referendum, the No campaign. This is about Westbury Printworks and Robert Jenrick. Castles in the Sand, community infrastructure levy. That's also public. Another Westbury Printworks Vote No manifesto. I did a talk a month ago or so on the built environment networking platform about major regeneration. I was very much involved in the London Docklands Development Corporation back in the day, and I only had 5 minutes, but I put my notes and also my trial run, which was 10 minutes, into there, so you can watch the video if you want. This is Who's Been Eating My Porridge. That's some recollections of past deals. There's a picture on the front of it of me back in 1990, just before that big recession. When you get as old as I am, you become experienced at some of these economic meltdowns that happen cyclically in our rather broken economic system. And that was the day I was made redundant from a very posh real estate consultancy firm called Hillier Parker, Mayor and Rowden. So we've always had a place in London Docklands. So now we've moved in, and I crossed out, moved in, and fucked off because we basically closed the office down. I'm actually eternally grateful to my old partner of Hillier Parker for making me redundant, because I started my own business the next day, and the rest, they say, is history. And then history of City Island, where we're moving our new offices next July. And then this is some research that I put together on research into mortgage origination and risk analysis. And then another publication. There's a Councillor Andrew Wood of Tower Hamlets, who resigned from the Tory party over. He published a tweet thing the other day saying why development on the Isle of Dogs should be stopped when until Tower Hamlets spend some community infrastructure levy that they have earned. You don't. It's a levy. You don't earn it. It's not a tax. It's not a wealth tax, which is an ongoing discussion I'm trying to have with the good councillor to nil effect, I'm afraid. But hopefully they will engage. The other people I've been trying to engage with is Empty Homes. Shout out for their absolutely brilliant report called Pretty Vacant, which is talking about all of the cash box in the skies things and all the rest of it. So obviously this is Chloe's subject, it's my subject too, so I am a nerd on the built environment, so of course there's lots in this for me, but there's lots in this for you. Read this book, Boris Johnson. Read this book, Keir Starmer. Read this book, Steve Reeve. Read this book, Robert Jenrick. Read this book, Rishi Sunak. the present Chancellor of the Exchequer. This is going to be a classic. It's beautifully written. It's got a very fast-paced narrative style with wonderful dialogue, great recollections, but also it's wonderfully sourced. The footnotes that are available in the well, they're at the back of the printed edition here, but the footnotes are also linked in the Kindle edition. For serious scholars, the Kindle edition is your friend, because obviously then you can just click on the links, and so it makes research an absolute delight, as opposed to when I was a researcher for a company called London Shop back in the day. I was always up the bloody library and poring over various sort of weighty tomes. So the internet is not good for your eyesight, but it's bloody good in terms of getting through what one needs to get through, things like Yumpu and all the rest of it. So look, I'm going to knock it off there. Can't recommend this book highly enough. Get a copy, read a copy, get down your local library, ask them to stock it for you. Do it now, do it today, and let's solve this problem. Modular finance, rentalslavery.co.uk. Take a look, register with us, and we are part of the solution. We are not part of the problem. We are proper capitalists. We're not crony capitalists. We're not Stalinists. We are not telling people how to live their lives. We have one small part of a solution which will work for some people, and we hope that our colleagues, competitors, and associates in other parts of the 100 rungs in the housing ladder all good fortune and all the well, and we're more than happy to put our heads together to get towards a solution to this apparently intractable problem. But as that chapter said, the House of Landlords says it all. When their own pension pots were depending on it, did they act? Did they hell? So come on. As I say in my review of Chloe's book, I'm going to sign off with this. And where are we? Ask not what you can do for your pension fund, but what you can do for generation rent. So come on, you fellow boomers. Let's deliver for our kids. Let's deliver for their kids. And let's just get out of this bloody whinging, Yabu sucks, left, right, red, blue, you know. There's something to be done here, and it's for our children, all our children. So get off your asses and let's bloody do something.